Here are 4 ways to start getting your time back and helping you become more productive as an entrepreneur. Now, over the past few years, I've started and scaled multiple businesses. I've worked with many different entrepreneurs within the e-commerce space and the fitness space and the coaching space. And I've worked with a lot of these different people, and a lot of them have really great businesses. And some of them were actually just trapped by the day-to-day. And it's a never-ending cycle because as you evolve and as you grow, you end up just carrying more and more responsibility and delegating more and more of it. But I wanted to give you guys 4 tips and tricks that have helped me in my journey be able to actually scale up, and not only the operations and the businesses that I have, but also to help make that impact for other people as well. And sometimes it's small things, but even myself, I need more help doing this over and over and over. As I reach new levels, there's people that, give me new thinking, give me new perspective regarding optimizing time. So I know from me starting out to me now, how I thought about 3 to 4 years ago was really different than how I think about it now. So I want to help shorten that curve for you and help you actually start to develop maybe those skill sets of delegating things a little bit earlier than I did myself. So first things first is when you're starting out your business, you have to learn front end, back end, you have to know the whole deal. Okay, so there's no getting around it unless you have a partner that's going to take care of 1/2 or 1/3 of the business, and then you have an actual ecosystem between who is doing what, and the responsibilities are clear. But once you start building a business, let's say you're at $10,000 or $20,000 a month in revenue, the next level for you isn't just to continue to take on more and more and more weight on your shoulders. Now about how can you delegate that stuff out? And so one of the biggest things for me that was hard for me to delegate out was media buying, actually not running the ads. A lot of my career in the beginning, I was a hotshot media buyer at a couple agencies. I had done, a lot of marketing myself. I had worked with a lot of clients, but I was in the ads manager over and over and over and over. And I realized that I wasn't really living a life. I was just kind of helping other people grow their business, which is great. I was making money, but it wasn't really fulfilling. And it got to a point where I looked really, really bad, just like physically, like it just wasn't a life. Again, I was just kind of consumed by the screen and I wasn't enjoying connection with people and things like that. And so I was actually really lonely during that process, especially as a media buyer. You're behind the screen all the time, man. You're looking at ads, you're optimizing ads, you're looking at content, you're adjusting things. And so that wasn't necessarily the lifestyle that I wanted. I wanted a laptop lifestyle and then a digital business that can grow without me. And as soon as I kind of gave up that identity of being a media buyer and I can actually delegate that out, that for me is when business really started to take off. So whatever you're kind of like consuming your time with now and finding identity in, I would take a hard look at that first, because as you develop out those skill sets or you're working with partners, it's very easy to become fixated into one box and to think that that's all that you have to contribute or that's all that your life is going to be. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. You can actually change your life at any moment. It just takes a decision, and it takes the willingness to actually change habit, change environment, and change the people that you're going to be surrounding yourself with and listening to. Okay. So that was one thing for me that I had to give up. The next thing that, as I progressed was how to then track what I was actually, relieving off my plate. I was so in my own head about all the KPIs and things that I do for experience. So I had to really dump all that stuff down and then, be able to transfer that over to people, and then starting to build relationships with people. And because I was super analytical and I was so focused on data, it took me a while to then become better at developing, communicating, and creating better relationships. And so now I'm at a stage where I don't have to run the ads for, my operation. I can still go in, check it out, and run ads, and I can still do it, but it's not necessarily the most effective use of my time. Whereas now it's creating content like this, it's negotiating deals, it's locking down contracts and things like that, and helping the business grow and thinking what thing can actually 10x my leverage rather than how many tasks do I need to do in order to get the same output that I'm getting right now. So the difference between those two thinkings really started out with, first, what does a team actually look like? You first need to hire your first 2 people, which is like typically your executive assistant. And then the main thing that's taking up your tasks is what you need to actually delegate off, unless that's like your superpower, right? If you're great at media buying, but you suck at sales, like I did in the very beginning, then get someone that can help you with sales and you focus on your own craft, and that's okay. But if you're trying to orchestrate a life where you're an entrepreneur and you have a team underneath you and you have business underneath you, you've got to start thinking of these processes and start thinking of if you have your identity in that stuff, you have to release it and then be able to look at who you can work with instead of having to learn everything yourself. Now, I did the learn everything yourself route for a very long time, so it made me pretty versatile in being able to understand things. But now I'm at a stage where I just want to bring in the right people. I do not want to go necessarily go learn the skill set. I don't want to necessarily go, learn it to then be able to figure out who the best person is for the job. I want to look at the candidates, being able to discern between their work, between that stuff, whether they're the right fit or not for our company, and then them to prove it and then fire them quickly if they're not the right fit. So that method and that route of doing it, adds to speed. Okay, and when you get to a certain point in business, speed is the name of the game, and you want to condense down time frames. That's how, when you see massive companies that go from 0 to 10 million to 50 million to 100 million and all these like different levels, they're not doing that with incremental revenue, right? They're probably just doing acquisitions, or they're funded by someone and they're just getting a lot of sales through, the capital that they raised to be able to get out into the market really quickly. It's not done with one sale, then one sale, then one sale, then one sale. There comes a point where they have to accelerate in order to have that business even be viable. So when you go from, again, just starting out, kind of going through that phase, the next thing is then telling people how you're going to communicate and really setting the boundaries around your communication. So for me, anything work related, Slack. Okay, only use Slack. I don't want to have 17 different apps to communicate with a bunch of people. Slack for my internal team and anyone that I'm in business with. Slack. And the reason is just because it's a central location. I have automations in place, which we'll talk about in this video too, that allow me to just go there, see exactly what's going on, and then jet out, or be able to communicate exactly what's going on and be able to go from there. So that is really, really important. The third thing for me that was really, really big was, how can you remove things off your calendar? Question what's on your calendar. Sales calls, great. No worries. But over a period of time, you can only take so many sales calls. So how can you have sales calls happening on multiple calendars, right? Marketing meetings, executive meetings, things like that. Question what's on the calendar to either add more substance to those calls to make it worth it, or just to eliminate the meetings, because those are going to be the biggest time sucks. And as I said earlier, when you're building a business, when you're figuring things out and you want to build a life alongside and having the businesses serve it instead of you just being a slave to your business, you then have to be very protective of your time and really get frustrated if there's things on your calendar that are wasting your time. The only way that it'll change is if you're mad, upset, or you actually see that that's hurting you. And there's a really good saying, it's really popular in the entrepreneur space. Essentially, there's a dog. He's whining, he's crying, he's complaining, and this guy is asking like, "Hey, should we go help that dog?" And he's like, "No, we shouldn't." And he's like, "Well, what's going on?" And he's like, "Well, he's sitting on a nail." Like, "Well, that's really bad. Shouldn't we go help him?" And he's like, "No, it doesn't hurt bad enough for him to move yet. If it hurt bad enough, he would have moved, he would have left, and he would have gotten a new spot to sit. But he just likes to complain, likes to cry, like to whine about it." So that could be either about you getting more attention, or that's actually just you not realizing that you have an issue and that it's actually hurting you, right? I don't know if the dog's okay or not, but that's the moral of the story, is just like, don't let something sit that is, poison to you if you know that that's costing you from getting to that next level. Now, when you start doing higher levels of revenue, the speed of communication, the frequency of communication, the tempo is going to pick up. It's not going to be super, super slow, because there are going to be more people in your organization, right? And wherever there's energy, wherever there's money, it's just a representation of, capital and human exchange. And that exchange is energy, right? So you're going to have more energy in your organization. You're going to have more energy in your company. And so you being able to go to one central hub, understand what you have the tasks at hand that you need to do based off of having one hub that's, unique to you. Some people use Notion, some people use, other softwares as well. And I'm even getting better at using, one for everything. But I think there's a couple softwares that help me, at least with Zapier, with Slack, and with Asana. I just kind of keep everything kind of in one spot there, the one ecosystem. Now, the last part of that, automations, right? So that tech stack that I just mentioned does have a lot of great automations that you can use. You can have one thing, then trigger. That way that your outward communication doesn't have to be so much. It can be a click of a button, and it can go ahead and either add things to Google Drive, or add things to Slack, or add things to different folders and stuff like that. That way it doesn't take up more time for rendering, or take up more time to actually have that communication go out. And so one of the biggest things that I would actually really put into my businesses over the past year has been request forms. Now, when I first started my agency, I was like, yeah, request forms, whatever, I don't care. But request forms, whether that be tech, whether that be sales, whether that be creative or anything like that, the form gets submitted. It takes me 3 minutes to fill it out, or it takes my team member 3 minutes to fill it out. Other team gets the outputs. They know how to edit, and they can go ahead and bring everything back, and everything's good. I didn't have to hop on a call and go over strategy. I didn't have to go over any of that stuff. I just put it all in a little document, submit it out. And once everything was uploaded, then it gets dispersed into the content teams and stuff like that. So things like that you can automate with Zapier, with all these different softwares, really help you then optimize your time. Because if something took you 3 hours to do and it condenses down to 3 minutes, you just opened up a lot of room for your business to not only grow, but also a lot of time for you to actually do the reflection and stuff that you need to do for your business. That could even just be reading and learning more. That could be courses. That could even be taking your health more seriously, having more time for your relationships and the people in your life that matter. Time to go travel, things like that. So that systemization of your business and of your personal life is really important. And so something, again, for me, when I was starting out, I was gun-ho on learning everything, was giving 100% willpower at all times. I got burnt out many times doing that. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just more so a wake-up call saying, hey, you as an entrepreneur, you're doing something wrong. Not necessarily that burnout doesn't happen. Sometimes you can get, phased out of a service offering, and there's a certain type of person that, likes shiny new things, and another person that actually can work on the back end of the product over and over to make it better and actually tweak and refine it and make it better over time. But the incremental growth that you have from really building out things and building out these systems allows you over the course of your life to really not have to work too much. Think about the exponential growth of you implementing systems over a period of time for your business and then for your life, for your relationships, for your health. You don't want to necessarily automate your relationship. I don't think that that's actually going to be too helpful, but you get my point. The exponential growth that you will have and the ability and the creativity that you're going to have to be able to think about things differently and be able to spend time with people and build deeper relationships will make it worth it. So if you're in that phase where you're just kind of stuck in the mundane, you're stuck in the day-to-day, and you're just not able to get out, you have to read a couple different books that actually helped me change my thinking with it. Number one is Traction by Gino Wickman, and then another one is his second book to that is Rocket Fuel. It goes over how visionaries and integrators can work together. And then once you understand what to find, you can then start to you can then start to search for the exact person that you need essentially to look for your business. So for me, recently this past year, I got an integrator or an ops manager, as you will call it, and that has freed up so much more time, bandwidth, and mental stress on me to be able to then focus on so many other pieces like content. I have a couple speaking gigs coming up and things like that. And then I'm also delegating out my travel. I'm delegating out a lot of things in order to make myself as efficient as possible to then continue to grow businesses. As more and more opportunity continues to flow my way, I'm going to continue to exercise those and continue to see how we can all work together, collaborate, and make things happen. So with that being said, I hope that provides a lot of value to you of how you can actually kind of progress over time, and 4 tips that I would recommend in order to actually get out of that flow and get out of that space to then experience life in a new light and really just have a different perspective. So hope that helps, and I'll see you in the next video.